G'day mates, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm just making a quick video today to explain how to make a closing storm map. There's different videos on YouTube explaining how to make a bouncing storm, but I have not found one that makes a clear closing zone. I had to make this myself and figure it out. It took me a very long time to figure out, but I'm going to make it incredibly simple for you today. So I made a demonstration map. Obviously, I would not suggest making your normal map like this, but just for demonstration purposes, I made it 5x5 and very small so you can see everything that's happening. I'll start it up just to give you a good idea of how it actually works, and then I'll go into full detail on how to make it yourself. So you're going to spawn on one of these spawn pads. This front zone is going to start, and then the side zones and the back zone are going to start. So I have these blue warning zones, which give you a one square warning before the orange zone comes and kills you. This is exactly the same for the sides and the back. It looks a bit chaotic with all the different lines here, but when you put it in a bigger scale, like I'm going to show you later with my other map, it's a lot more clear, but you get the idea how it works, right? There's two side zones that are pushing you in. There's a back zone and a front zone, just like there would be in a normal game, and then it closes out. All right, let's show you exactly how to make it yourself, okay? So this is the most effective way to make it. When you start the game, these will start every single time with no issues whatsoever. So these are built off music sequences. The way the music sequences work, so music sequencer, is they're going to push forward in one direction, and then they're going to have, I've set one to be damage off, one to be elimination, so you get a warning barrier. Now, like I said, I made this map 5x5, so I can demonstrate this very, very easily, because there's a few rules you need to make sure of. The problem that a lot of people have with their maps is, if a music sequencer line goes through another music sequencer, it triggers it off. So you need to make sure that you have it on a scale where you don't have the side zones or the back zones hit each other. Does that make sense? So that one there that goes forward can't come wide enough to hit this button here. It has to stop along this line, okay? So just going through each music sequences so you know exactly how to make it for yourself. You can make this as big as you want. You can throw mountains in the way. You can put whatever you want in there. But if you use my guide here, you'll be able to make the sides and front zones very, very quickly and easily. So looping off, I've set it to a tempo of 5. I suggest having the sides at a tempo of 5, having this one at a tempo of 14, 12 or 14, depending on how fast you want it to go, and the back one to have a tempo of a slower tempo like 8. Okay, I'll go into detail on each one. So tempo 5, length 2. So I've got it going too long, so it's going to stop right here. And then I have the back one at a length of 3. So it closes out on the exact same spot, okay? Now width of 5, because it's a 5 map, and I've set a height of 5. In my other maps, I normally just set this to a height of 100. It's very simple to do. This just means that no one can get above it. It's just going to go straight up into the sky, okay? Now, all the settings are the same. So trigger type, trigger. So what this means is you don't want it to be on off switch. You want it to be a trigger, so it's going to work perfectly every time. Zone visible in game. This doesn't really matter too much, off or on. I have it off because all it means is that you'll be able to see all these blue squares. And I think if you've made a map, it makes it look a little bit ugly. They're still going to be able to see the line, whether it's on or off. They just won't be able to see these blue squares, okay? Trigger is active always. Make sure it's set to always. If you have this set to only when not sweeping, it means once it gets triggered once, it can't be triggered until that barrier is finished, which might cause you issues when you try and start it up multiple times. Direction forward, because you want it to obviously go from here out. And then damage off. So like I said, I have the front one on damage off, so it's blue, so it gives a warning signal. And then on the back one, all the settings are exactly the same. These settings are exactly the same except for the length, like I described, but I have damage set to elimination because this is the one that's going to kill you. This one gives you a warning, this one kills you. Now, how they start, as you can see, is you put either spawner. It doesn't matter what vehicle you use. You can use shopping cart, you can use ATK, you can use a quad crasher. You just have to put a vehicle spawn. Make sure when you put the vehicle spawn, so I'll get rid of this one just to show you. When you make a vehicle spawn, make sure you're facing this direction I am now. If I put it here, it's not going to spawn the right way. So make sure you're facing this way. And the same goes for the bumper. So let me just put a floor under it. See, the bumper hits it, and then it starts. So this right here, this is just a, right here. This is just a pinball flipper. Again, make sure you're standing here. If you throw the pinball flipper standing over here, it's going to bounce it the wrong way. Okay? So very, very simple. Just make sure you're standing this point here with the sequencer you want to hit on the right. Okay? So get rid of that one. Respawn it. There you go. So what's going to happen is when the game starts and ATK spawns, it hits the sequencer. This sequencer hits this sequencer. They start moving. They all work in the exact same way. So the way you get music sequences to start, this is the most effective way to do it. It's always going to be the same. Okay. Now with this zone here, this zone is a little bit different. So this zone here, looping off, same as usual. Tempo 8, you can play around with this. It doesn't really matter with tempo. Tempo is personal preference. It's just how fast the zone goes. Length 3, because I want it to start 1, 2, 3. I normally like to leave 1 to 2 squares of safety so people can push out of the spawn and start building, but they can't run all the way to the back of the map, okay? You want to make sure this one goes pretty far into the map. Now, everything else is the same as the other ones though. The width is 5 because it's a 5-side map. The height, you can set it to whatever you want. You can set it to 100, like I said. Trigger type, trigger, zone visible in game. Like I said, off, on, it doesn't really matter. It's just aesthetics. Trigger is active always. This is the main part, reverse. The way this zone works is when I click this button, it starts at that end and starts coming forward. This is where I find a lot of people have issues to making this front zone, because if you try to put a barrier back here, which starts going forward like all the other ones do, they're going to trigger each other. So just go to the very far side of your map, wherever it is, and then make sure you go the length all the way back and then set it to reverse. Okay, that's one of the main ones. Now, this one I don't have a warning zone on because I feel like the front zone's pretty easy to see. If you're playing a game and you're trying to take a gunfight with someone, you should be looking forward. It's very rare you're going to turn around and walk backwards into it, right? I just think you don't need a warning zone. You can put a warning zone on it if you want and build it exactly like that. I just like this one without a warning zone. Now, this side is identical to the other side. Everything's the same. The tempo is the same. The length is the same. The width is the same because they're on a square. They're in the exact same spot across from each other, okay? And now the back zones, they're very, very similar. The back zones will be looping off. Tempo of 12. I personally like 12, but again, you can set it faster, slower. It's whatever you want the pace of the game to be. Length 5, because it's going to go 5 long. So I want it to go all the way to the very end of the map. Actually, sorry. This one should be a length of 6 because this is 1 square back, right? So this one should be a length of 5 and this one should be a length of 6 because this is 1 square further away. I hope that makes sense, okay? Now, going through the other settings, the width 5, the height, again, you can set it to 100. Just make sure it's really, really tall. Trigger type, trigger, zone visible in game, off, trigger is active always. Now, this one is forward because you want it going in that direction, okay? You don't want it to be in reverse. And then this one, same as the side zones, is elimination, and this one is no damage. Okay, so damage off. Now, that essentially is how you make the map. What you want to do with it after that, you can do whatever you want. You can put, I've got player spawns in here. One of my maps, I have random item spawners and I have a whole bunch of other fun stuff. I've got mountains in the way. I've done one that's in a giant box. Honestly, you can do whatever you want with it, but this is how you make the zones. Just know if you follow these simple steps, you'll be able to make it. The one thing you have to watch out for is say that I set this one, say I set this to a width of 8. What's going to happen is, see how that square just expanded? See how it goes out to here now? So this sequencer here is going to trigger this one if I made it longer, and this one if I make it longer. So that's your issue. You just have to make sure the sequences don't hit each other. So the easiest way to do that is make sure that you make your map on a square grid block. So if you want to make it 40 long, make sure that it's exactly 40 long and you put your music sequencer in the dead middle. Otherwise, it's going to hit the other zones. This can become quite tricky sometimes, I understand, but the simplest way to make this map is build it on a grid square block. You can build it on the block like I built mine here, so you can just count the squares if you want. It makes it far simpler. A lot of maps, like I'll show you one of my maps, a lot of maps are built on the islands because you want a mountain in the way. Like I've built one of mine. I'll show you one of my main maps so you can see exactly what you can do with this here. So this is my full scale closing storm map. This is one of them. So I'm going to show you how to make a map like this very, very simply based on what I showed you in the last clip. Okay, so I'll show you how this map works really quickly. It's very, very simple. It's basically a large scale of what you just saw. So I've got a whole bunch of I've got 16 player spawns, and then I have a random item spawn. This time I got boogie bombs. Obviously I'm not versing anyone, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to run out. So I've got a bit of a safe zone before the front zone starts to come in, so you can take some shots, you can build up, you can take high, you can take low, and you'll see the side zones are already starting to come in. So you've got the blue safety zone on each side, and then you've got the red zone starts to come through, same as I showed you before. You got the red zone coming through. On the back side, you got the blue safety zone, you got the red zone. So it's exactly what I showed you. It's just scaled up. It's obviously much wider to accommodate for everybody in here. It now pushes you up the mountain. I'm not going to show you the whole, obviously how long the map takes, because it can take a while. You go all the way up the mountain, and then it finishes on a damaged tick square up there. So let me show you how you would make something like this very, very effectively. So all the concepts I showed you on the last map are exactly the same. It's just scaled up. So on the edges, you've got an ATK spawner, and then two music sequences and a pinball flipper. So I put this one up a little bit because when I tried to put it down there, it blocked it off. It doesn't matter. Again, same thing. If I just delete the spawner, it's going to hit, it's going to bounce, and they're going to start. Exactly the same. Now, one thing I do want to point out, because a lot of people don't seem to know about this, the easiest way to black out your map like this, which you want to do for two reasons. One reason to black out your map, it just looks much nicer. It just kind of obviously hides all the stuff outside the map. Two, with these zones, having a black background makes them far, far more visible, okay? Now, how you make this in pretty much 2 seconds is you get a barrier. So you go to your thing, you go barrier down here. Now, for this one, all you do is just change the barrier visibility from on to black. You then set base visible in game on off. Doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to see it. Block weapons in game on. Now, just width 100 because it's going to be 100 wide. Depth to 1. And then barrier height to 100. So all that does is it means it doesn't have any depth, but it's 100 wide and 100 high, and it's black. So that's it. In basically 10 seconds, you now have a black barrier, okay? Now, same thing on this side. It's exactly the same as I showed you in the last video. It's just going to be an ATK spawner, 2 sequences. The back side, if I come over here, ATK spawner, 2 sequences. This one doesn't do anything. This was just for something else. And now the only thing that's different about this map, at the very back end, because it's an Arctic island, I've put another barrier. So back here, because I don't want people going off the map, as it pushes you in, I've just set a damage barrier here that's going to kill anyone if they try and walk past it, and I've made it red so it's very visible. So the way this map works is all these storms end on 1 square, and this 1 square here, it has a 25 damage per tick. So this is a damage volume, which is, if you go into here, you've got damage volume. I've just set this one to be visible in game so people know it's there. Base visible off so it doesn't get in the way. Width 1, depth 1, and 100 height, so it's all the way up. If someone's on height, they'll still get hit. Damage over time, 25 damage, 1 second tick rate. Safe team no, because obviously it's a free-for-all. Shield damage on, so it will go through their shield as well first, so you can out-heal it with meds. Now, basically that's it, guys. That's how the map works. It's very, very simple. I've also got the back barrier again, like I showed you. Just go to the far end of your map, put a music sequencer, and make sure it's in reverse. Same thing as I showed you, in reverse, okay? Very, very simple. Now, one thing I do want to go into detail on is when you're making maps like this. This one was a little bit trickier because of the side scaling. So again, I had to calculate everything. I counted the squares, right? So when I made the width, the rules are the same. I need to make sure that these music sequences aren't wide enough to hit those backside ones, and they don't go long enough to hit other ones. Remember, same as before, the sequences can't hit each other. That's all you have to do. Other than that, guys, go for it. Make whatever you want. Put giant mountains in the way. Put giant blocks. Once you've made the zones the same as I showed you in the first video, you can do what you want. Now, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. That's going to be it for me. If you like the video, please like it. Subscribe if you want more tips on creative building or just other videos in general. If you want people to play this map with, I'm going to publish the map code. It's going to be in the description down below so you can play this map. If you want people to play with, though, come check out my stream, guys. It's twitch.tv/AussieAntics. That's going to be in the description down below as well. I play this map all the time. Also, if you have any questions about the map, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to always respond to them and help you out if you're in a pinch, okay? To figure out how to make this map took me about 10, 15, maybe even 20 hours, but once you've seen my video, you should be able to make it in, honestly, 1 to 2, depending on how much you put in it. The side zones, front and back, should take you 10 minutes once you know what you're doing. It is that simple, guys. So please enjoy the video. Hopefully it helped you out, and yeah, have a good day. Enjoy.